Hello, friends. I have something really creepy for you today. I will tell you two stories from Reddit, where ordinary people faced persecution that turned out to be much more terrible than one could imagine. These stories will make you think twice before opening the door to a stranger or walking down a dark street. So make yourself comfortable. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. And now let's move on to the stories. History 1: The Shadow That Did Not Retreat. Hello, Reddit. My name is Mark, and I'm 27 years old. I never thought that I would find myself in such a situation, which I will tell you now. I've always considered myself a pretty careful person, but what happened made me doubt it. It all started when I moved to a new city. A dream job, new housing, new people. It seemed that life was finally getting better. In the evenings, I often walked down the street near my house to relax after a long day at work. One day, about 2 months ago, I noticed that someone started following me. At first, it didn't cause me much concern. After all, there are a lot of people in the new neighborhood, and maybe someone is just walking in the same direction. But this someone appeared again and again. I started my route at different times, tried to change the route, but always found the same figure following me. He was a man of medium height, always wearing a black jacket and a cap covering half of his face. He never got closer than a couple dozen meters, but his presence was palpable, and every time I felt more uncomfortable. One evening, I decided to find out who he was and what he needed. I quickened my pace to get out into the lighted street and maybe get other people's attention. But this man seemed to understand my intentions. He also accelerated and suddenly disappeared around the corner as soon as I reached the lighted part of the street. The next day, I decided to go to the police. They listened to my story, but they didn't seem to take it seriously. Maybe they thought it was just a coincidence, but I wasn't laughing at all. They promised to increase patrols in the area, but deep down I knew that wasn't enough. A week has passed, and I've already started to forget about what happened. But one night I woke up to a strange noise in the apartment. It was about 3 in the morning, and the first thing I felt was an icy cold on my neck. Someone was standing by my bed. It was him, the same man who has been following me all this time. Before I could do anything, he quickly approached and whispered something in my ear. It was so quiet and creepy that I didn't understand a word. He looked at me with a piercing gaze and, oddly enough, just left the room. I didn't hear him open the door or anything. He just disappeared. I haven't seen him since, but the fear remains. I do not know what it was. A ghost? Or is it just a psychopath who decided to scare me? But what happened will always remain in my memory. I continue to live in this city, but I never feel safe anymore, even in my own apartment. History 2: The Uninvited Guest. Hello, everybody. I am Laura. I am 31 years old, and I want to share a story that turned my life upside down. Until recently, I lived a normal, quiet life. Work, friends, hobbies, everything was just wonderful. But one encounter with a mysterious stranger made me rethink everything. It happened a year ago, when I lived alone in a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. The place was quiet and secluded, which I really liked. That evening, as usual, I returned home after work and decided to have a quiet evening with a book and a cup of tea. Around midnight, I heard a knock on the door. It was weird because I wasn't expecting anyone, and as far as I knew, no one in the area was visiting so late. I decided not to open it, but the knock came again, this time more insistently. I went to the door and looked through the peephole. A man stood in the doorway. He looked quite ordinary clothes, a calm expression on his face. But something in his gaze made me wary. He didn't seem interested in anything, but his presence made me uneasy. He knocked again, and this time I decided to ask what he wanted. "Who are you, and what do you need?" I asked through the closed door. The man slowly turned his head towards the peephole, and I noticed that his face was half hidden in shadow. "I need to come in," he said softly, almost in a whisper. I instantly sensed the danger and told him that I would call the police if he didn't leave. But he didn't move. Then I actually called the police. They said they would come as soon as possible, but the unknown did not leave. He was just standing at my door, looking right through the peephole. A few minutes passed, and I heard the sound of a siren. The stranger suddenly turned around and left, disappearing into the darkness of the street. The police arrived a few minutes later, but they found no trace. I told them what happened, but like in Mark's story, they didn't take it seriously. They said it was probably just a tramp or someone who got the wrong address. However, the next day I noticed that the door to the balcony, which I always carefully closed, was ajar. The things in the apartment were in the same order as before, but I had the feeling that someone was inside. Since then, I have lived in constant fear that he would return. My life changed after that incident. I moved to another city and started to rebuild my life, but the fear stayed with me. Now I always check the doors and windows before going to bed, and even in a new place I don't feel completely protected.